welcome to Wellness Wednesdays with Stephanie. I am Stephanie Buckland. I'm your host, and I am very delighted and excited to be interviewing Debbie Lavinsky today. Hi, Debbie. How are you?
I'm great, Stephanie. How are you? Thanks for having me here.
Oh, you're so welcome. I'm so excited to have our conversation today. I have never experienced Rossiter stretching, so this is going to be a very interesting conversation. I would love for you to give our audience a little introduction about who you are and what kind of magic you're making in the world.
Well, I'd be happy to share that. I am one of those later in life exercisers. I was pretty much like a desk jockey as a financial advisor for almost 20 years. And before that, I was a professional orchestral musician. And as a little background on that, I suffered from some repetitive use injuries, which really curtailed that career, which is when I went into financial services. I'd always had an interest in finances. My dad had died at a young age and left my mom with like basically nothing. So I had that life experience, and I didn't want other people to fall into that. And besides, my own personal desire not to have that happen. And I worked in that business for almost 20 years. And during that time, I got very overweight. I was sitting at a desk all day long. In an accounting firm, working as a financial advisor, they're always bringing in goodies, especially during like tax season. And I would just sit there and just pop the Pop-Tarts in my mouth. And it was like, I really got heavy. So at one point when I turned 50, I really made a decision that I needed to lose weight. I was feeling terrible, and I started running. So I did that couch to 5K, and slowly the weight came off. I got interested in into running, and I did a PF Shanks half marathon. But my knees were really shot at that point. And I started taking Pilates a few years earlier, and just really felt that was a great exercise for my body. It was one of those love at first sight. When I laid down on the reformer, which is one of our most popular pieces of equipment, my eyes rolled back in my head, my eyelashes just fluttered on my cheeks. And I'm like, oh, I just loved it. So I was very passionate about taking Pilates lessons. And I got to a point where, it's not inexpensive. I wanted to learn more. So I decided to take a training class for the mat exercises, because I figured, I could do this at home on my own and not have to pay somebody. So I was so naive. I was working full-time as a financial advisor, and I started taking these classes, realizing it was like a teacher training class. And I was expected to train people and, besides self-practice, learn all these exercises, have a thesis project. It was a lot more than I really thought. I just wanted to learn the exercises. But I felt that doing the mat exercises transformed my body so dramatically. Way more than the 7 years of Pilates on the reformer and chair had done. So I really fell down the rabbit hole in a big way, finished the mat certification, decided to go for the whole enchilada, did the entire comprehensive certification on all the equipment. So it was about a year's worth of time, because it's an over 500-hour. You're a yoga instructor, or you're very passionate about yoga, but with yoga, it's 200 hours. With Pilates, it's 500, 600, depending on the program you're on. So it's very intensive. You have to observe people, you have to teach people, you have to self-practice, lots of projects to do. I just ate it up. For me, it was like a synergy of everything I'd done before in my life, because I loved playing flute. I loved teaching flute. So it was a way I was using my body with breath the way I did playing a wind instrument, teaching people. I already loved that. So I did this back and forth for about a year and a half. I would have my Lululemons on, and then I would switch to my suits and meet my financial services clients. And then I put my Lululemons and go to another studio to teach. So I was hopping all over the place, trying to, follow my passion. And I realized after a year and a half that financial services was just not doing it for me anymore. There were too many things going on with the market that made me so nervous. It was hard for me to sleep at night. And I just felt a lot more joy from Pilates and the interaction I had with my students, because I could see they were getting transformations, and it just felt like home. So my husband was so supportive, and I found a space, because I was kind of hopping around and teaching in other places, renting space. So I found a space in Moon Valley area of Phoenix, which is north of where I live now in Ahwatukee, and decided to, go all out, signed a lease. So I had about, let's say, maybe a 4 or 5 month transition to retirement from my financial services career. Found somebody who took over my book of business, and I was done. I was done with it. And my studio just thrived from the beginning. And I would say my background in finance and working with business, I had a business plan, and right from the get-go, 2 months later, I was already profitable. I had wonderful, wonderful students in this. The community was just fantastic. And I had my studio for over 4 years. And then my husband retired. My daughter had her second child. They were, a half hour away. And I was just getting called back and forth to help out with childcare. So my decision to not renew my lease, and we downsized and moved to the East Valley. So I didn't want to, I'd spent my whole life really driving around everywhere. I just didn't want to do that. And I now have a small home-based studio where I'm fully equipped with reformer, Cadillac, 2 different types of chairs, all the props. I was able to teach online during COVID. I still will teach online and have clients in different parts of the country that I teach online. They have equipment in their homes, so it works out really well. Now, during this time, when I had my studio, I've always been a lifetime learner. So I hosted lots of different continuing education and training programs in my studio. And it's really shocking how, at least in Phoenix, Scottsdale, how few Pilates teachers are interested, after they do their 500-hour, 600-hour class, in going through further training. I became a nationally certified Pilates teacher after I had my certification, which was sitting for an exam and following certain guidelines with ethics and safety. So part of that certification was maintaining continuing education. So a lot of that hosting these courses was helping me as well, because I needed to maintain my certification. But also, as a lifetime learner, I was curious. Now, I had all these people walking in my door, all in pain for the most part. They came from surgeries, rehabilitation, they had autoimmune diseases, they had just almost anything you could think of. It was, I wouldn't say I was unprepared after my certification courses for this. They train you on certain conditions, spine, back, hip, joints. But the kinds of physical conditions that people were walking in with were a combination of a lot of things. I had people with MS. I had people with, different types of arthritis. Rheumatoid arthritis was huge. So how to work with these people and these populations. So I couldn't find the training in Phoenix, so I brought the people into me. And among the courses that I hosted and still do are based on osteoporosis, building stronger bones. That is one I'm very passionate about. And the last one that I hosted was called Rossiter Stretch Technique. Now on Facebook, we have all these Pilates groups, and people would get on and ask questions. I have a student who has X kind of problem, or this or that. And a couple of people would jump on and they would say, oh, Rossiter would help. Oh, you should learn how to do Rossiter because you can fix that in 5 minutes. I'm like, that sounds a little exaggerated. 5 minutes, you can fix a lifelong chronic disorder. Yeah, I don't quite believe that. But I kept seeing and hearing these people. So I figured, okay, I am going to have a Rossiter training at my studio, because all the other ones, Rossiter is not well known in the Phoenix area or in Arizona for that matter. And all the trainings were far off. East Coast, Northern California, Colorado, Texas. So I brought in somebody who was one of the founding Rossiter coaches and trainers. And I convinced a few of my other skeptical Pilates Facebook friends. And then there were some other people who joined in to come to this training. And everybody was like, you know, kind of a chip on their shoulder, because they didn't quite believe that this was as good as it was. But we all needed the continuing education credit, so what the heck, right? So long story short, over the course of this weekend, we all had major epiphanies. And for me, I had really chronic ankle pain because I was teaching bar classes, ballet bar, you know, fitness classes. I had, oh, my right ankle was just like in constant pain because I was teaching like 10 classes a week. You know, if you take bar class a couple times a week, it's great for your body. But if you're doing it 10 times, it's not so great. So one of the stretches worked the bottom of the foot. So like plantar fasciitis is another issue that a lot of people have. So the stretch that I learned and that was done on me, something popped, something opened up in that ankle joint area. I let out with such a scream because it was like probably more the shock of feeling that. And the ankle pain was gone. It was unbelievable because it released the fascia that was tied up or knotted up because it was injured and inflamed. It was amazing. Another woman in our group had the same thing. She had really bad plantar fasciitis. She's an Ironman participant. She runs all the time. And she was suffering. Hers went away. With this one guy who is Tongan. So if you know Tongan, South Pacific Asian people are very massive, big people. This guy is huge. No neck, his shoulders were like way up into his ears like this. So with a few of these upper back releases, all of a sudden he had a neck, he had shoulders. He wasn't tight and bound up anymore. So we witnessed this with each other and in our own bodies. And we were like, oh my God, we have to do, there were 4 levels of training. We have to do all of it. So from then on, I was like totally into it. And this was about over 6 years ago. So I went and did all 4 to the advanced Rossiter training courses and brought this to Arizona. So there's certain pockets in the country, like San Antonio, Fargo, Colorado, East Coast. There's just kind of hubs where there are a bunch of teachers, a bunch of trainers, a bunch of Rossiter coaches, and you have a lot of awareness. But in Arizona, no. So I brought it back. And Rossiter, just like background on it, started 25 years ago, maybe now, it's got to be like 30 years ago, by Richard Rossiter, who was a massage therapist. He was injured in Vietnam. He was in a helicopter crash and really injured his shoulder. So, you know, as a massage therapist, you're using your arms and, you know, your shoulders, your back. So he was really sore. And he was also a rolfer. So he was a very creative guy. So like visionary in a lot of ways. He knew the body very well from massage and rolfing. But he knew like his hands, his wrists, his fingers, his elbows, his shoulders were not going to hold up for his whole career. And then what do? You know, this is your life work, and you can't do it because you've got repetitive use injuries, which is what I could relate to that because I'd had that myself.
Yep.
So yeah. So like the ankle was one of them. My hands from playing flute. I had like some back issues from holding the flute. Anyway, so he decided to use the foot. He felt that the foot was strong. You have your weight of your body your foot is warm. Now, I have cold feet, but we wear socks. We don't put our bare foot on people. But he discovered that you could take your foot, the heel mostly, and place it in strategic parts on the body to pin your muscle, your fascia, your connective tissue. And then the person who is receiving the stretch isn't just laying there like they would if they were in a massage or a rolfing session. He devised different movements that the person in charge, is what we call the person getting the stretch, the pick, certain movements while the muscle and tissue is being pinned that help open up these different pathways, these different fascia connections. And the weight of the foot can be totally adjustable. So I know at first people say, well, you're putting your foot on. They think it's like shiatsu, or you're walking on your back, like, Thai massage. It's nothing like that. It's just basically finding the right place, getting agreement with the pick, the person in charge, that the weight is okay. The more weight you take, the better result you'll have. But everybody has a pain tolerance. And some people can take a lot of weight and endure a lot of pain. And some people barely anything. The pain receptors in the body are still a mystery for a lot of scientists. You can have a big brawny guy who can hardly take any weight. And you can have a tiny petite person, and I'm one of those people, who can take a lot of weight. So it really depends on so many factors. And I never know until I start working. So there's a give and take that goes on. There's communication. And we do have like these, in Rossiter, 4 constants. And communication between the pick and the coach is so important. I can never know what somebody's feeling. If I put my foot on somebody, I don't know what they're feeling. I know what it feels like to me, but that's my experience. So I've learned, through my years working with people with Pilates, that people experience movement and feeling and touch so differently. And I'm sure, as you are well versed in this, when people have trauma, they hold this in their bodies in different places. I learned this myself when I had major back issues about 4 years ago, and studied Dr. John Sarno, who is a noted back doctor in New York, who talked about when people have trauma, they stuff it down. They don't want to deal with it based on the brain doesn't want to take on the pain of working through painful emotional issues. So what it does is it stuffs it in other places in the body, because it's easier for the brain to understand pain coming from a physical part. And learning how to release that pain, whether it's through meditation, whether it's through something like Rossiter, breath work, Reiki. I got very interested in Reiki during that time and became a master. It's all been a journey, like finding like the key to unlock pain for people. And Rossiter for me was like the key. So when I started working with people, of course, they're skeptical as well. They've never heard of it. You're going to put your foot on me? But within like a few minutes of a session, because it's so different, they start feeling the relief, and people feel like a lightness in their limb. For a lot of times when I'm doing a different stretch, especially with the arms, it's kind of interesting. There's like a blanching. It's a term that's like the blood sort of goes away and the skin becomes very pale and white. Because of that pinning, you're kind of like maybe stopping circulation momentarily, but the person's moving so much, it's just the blood is going to where it's needed. And then as soon as I take my foot off, I see like this rush, like this flush of pink coming into the tissue that I just, saw was white a minute ago. So that blood flow was another thing that Dr. Sarno was very keen about, because he said, when you have pain, you're clenching, you're tight, you're squeezing off areas because of the pain is making you do that, and it's squeezing out blood flow. So one of the things he talked about for relieving pain, especially with breath work and things like Reiki and visualization, is visualizing blood coming into these areas and opening up these pathways, these fascial connections that are all like knotted up. Well, I could do that with Rossiter. Like, I saw it and it just was incredible. So, and then people come to me. I'm pretty much like a snowbird hub, because people go for Rossiter regularly in other parts of the country and come visit Arizona in the winter. And I start getting the calls from my regulars, and they drive from Gold Canyon, they drive from Anthem, they drive from all over to come see me for, you know, a session, because they've got pain and they know that I can relieve it. And I always like to take before and after photos. People come in, they're all bent over, their shoulders are rolled in, their shoulders are up to their neck, they're looking pained. And when we're done, they feel lighter, they feel more flexible. And when I take pictures, I can see clearly, posturally, the changes. I can see changes on their face. You know, what was all like scrunched up in pain is now like relaxed and smooth looking. So it's wonderful feedback for them, because most people don't remember, like if they start feeling good, then they want to forget really fast how they didn't feel good. So it's a successful practice that I have, you know, really with people who have the knowledge of Rossiter. But the challenge has been, because it's not well known, they don't market it, advertise it. Now you have these stretch places opening on every corner. Like, what's the difference? Why is Rossiter different? And it's different because pain doesn't always originate from where you think it does. And we approach working with somebody differently than a stretch or a massage therapist, because they're passive. They're laying on a table, and the massage therapist, rolfer, stretch therapist, they're working on them. And the person is laying there while the practitioner is manipulating their body for them. Same thing with a chiropractor, right? You go to a chiropractor and there's not much you're doing with them. And I think in that way, maybe it's similar to shiatsu, because it's more participatory type of body work. But because each person is a partner with the coach in restoring their health, they can participate as much or as little as they want. It's their time. They're paying for it. If they don't really want to get out of pain, or they're skeptical, or they're afraid, maybe they won't give 100%. But the people who have that aha moment go for it, because we know you have to walk through a little door of pain to get out of it. And some of our stretches are very intense, like mine with my foot. I, let out with that whoop, the release. So, but a lot of people aren't prepared for that. So I try to, give them a little bit of, I don't want to say warning, but expectations, set expectations. I also really like to understand their history. How did they get to me? What have they done previously? Did they go to physical therapy? Have they gone to massage? Have they had dry needling? Have they had, acupuncture? Blah, blah, blah. There's like a huge list of people out there whose sole job is to try to relieve pain. And there are a lot of people in pain that will hop from one practitioner to another, because right? I'm one too. I mean, I get it. There's this search to get rid of it by any way you can. And So that leads them to me because they've heard about it. It's always a word of mouth kind of mystique about it. And now I have to say, I'm not 100% successful. I've had some people that, they come twice, they don't have pain anymore, and they go away. So unlike the chiropractor who's going to put you on the $40, 3 times a week plan, come see me for a month, 3 times a week, next month, 2 times a week, it's like he keeps you coming whether you need it or not. With us, if you feel after 2 times it's not working for you, you're either going to go look for somebody else or we fixed you, or you'll come again 1 or 2 times and give it a few more, chances. So I never get bent out of shape or, if that happens, if somebody doesn't come back. But a lot of people are pretty much fixed after a couple of sessions. One of the things I worked a lot on, upper back and shoulder, neck pain, that we really work a lot on the arms. So when you go to a chiropractor, they're torquing your neck, they're grinding your discs, okay? You get that momentary pop, release, whatever, it feels okay. But they really haven't addressed like where the pain is coming from, and it will come back because the body wants to reset itself back into its old comfortable spot, right? So the thing with Rossiter is we break that up. And I find a lot of people have neck pain. It originates for most right-handed people, their right bicep. So who would think neck pain is coming from your bicep? But everything's connected. And like if you've ever seen, I saw a video of an autopsy, not a real one. I don't think I want to do that. Where they took out the fascia from the body in one piece. It was literally a body bag. And so everything's connected. So with this computer and phone, electronic society, everybody is using, if you're right-handed, using your right arm with a mouse, with a keyboard, with a phone, with a heavy bag, moms holding kids on a hip. It throws the body off balance. And the right arm, if you're a righty, and the right bicep is a very strong muscle and gets overused. And then it's connected up into the neck. So we have a number of different kinds of releases that we do to open up your forearm, both your inside and outside, your biceps, your triceps if we need that, so the back of your arm, and then the upper traps, which is the top of your back neck area. It's like a triangle of small muscle, but so many people overuse it and don't use the big latissimus dorsi back muscles. So by releasing those muscles, it relieves a lot of that tension and pain that goes up into the head and neck, headaches, shoulder pain, all of that, just working a little bit on the arms. And then we have some other techniques that we use. Low back, we never step on your back. We never put our foot on your back. So how we address it is in other areas of the body. So the front of your thighs, the back of your thighs, the side, the inside. Believe it or not, like the inside of the thigh, most people wouldn't even think about that, as being an area that you hold pain. But it's a very common spot that once it's released, it makes a huge difference. So we have like these, very straightforward, very basic kinds of stretches to very advanced where we get people into crazy positions, stacking their limbs up on different wooden blocks and, and having them move in a little bit different way. But I generally do the very basic, what I would say level 1 techniques with most people because they're easy to follow. Not everybody has good body awareness and they're effective. You can spend like 10 minutes getting somebody set up in this position. It may or may not work. We don't know. That's more of like when I have somebody who nothing is working for. then you start working your way up into the more advanced stretches. But for the most part, very basic. A lot of people have taken the Rossiter trainings because they have a significant other, a family member, a partner who has pain, and anybody can take these courses. So it's not limited to Pilates teachers, body workers. You don't need a license. You don't need a college degree at all. It's very simple to learn. And a lot of the classes that we had people that were, in that category of just like a loved one who heard about it and wanted to be able to do it for their partner when they're in pain. So kind of like how I started off wanting to do mat Pilates at home. So there's a lot of people that learn this that never go into, say, the business of offering it professionally and charging for sessions. So that is kind of like a big overview. I hope that answered your question there about the why. You can see I'm just a little passionate about it.
A little passionate. Yeah. So I'm wondering about when you put your foot on people, is there's certain spots that you work with? Because I know
absolutely.
there's a certain spot right here that I put pressure on to relieve pain. And I'm like, okay, is that one of the spots?
Well, that's really interesting, Stephanie, because that's very close to one of our spots that we call, that's called hole in the shoulder. Mm-hmm. So, if I'm going to lower my camera a little bit. So like you can't even see where I'm too far, but like right up. So you have your shoulder here, your shoulder joint, there's like a little crease here. And then if you move your hand over a little bit, so it's like really in your pectoral muscle on your chest. So like your chest, I'm going to just sit up like this maybe. I don't know. I can't get the camera angle right. It's good when I'm standing up, I can show you. But so you have like these chest muscles that come across. They kind of like have, the muscle fiber comes across like this, right? So, and connects at the shoulder joint.
Right.
So we don't put the foot like right in the joint, and we don't want to have it on the bone. You have your rib bones that are up here too. There's just like a little spot kind of just above the boob that I can feel. And like usually what happens is I have somebody, when we're doing that stretch, the majority of them, they're laying on a mat on their back, sometimes on their side, depending on, if I'm working inner thigh, outer thigh, they're going to be on their side. But most times people are laying on their back, and I would be standing behind them, so behind their head. We use like hiking poles for balance. And I have these wooden box stands to elevate myself if I need to. If it's a little person, I don't need a box to stand on. But if I'm, looking at a bigger body, I need to be elevated because I'm only 5'2". So I need a little bit of leverage too. But we learned that, the setup. So we would take, like, say, the heel, there's a hard side and a soft side of your heel. And we would have the person in charge take a breath in. And when they breathe in, on that exhale, that's where I would sink my foot in to that spot. So it finds there's like a little pocket, that opens up that the heel can go in. And if you ever did angel wings, I don't know if you grew up in a place with snow.
Nope.
Okay. So I did. I was in Ohio and we had lots of snow as a kid. So you lay on your back and you wave your arms up and down and you make angel wings in the snow. And the same thing is you open your legs up back and forth. So when you get up, it leaves the impression of an angel. So it's kind of a similar movement, but there's a twist to it because we add some rotations with the arms. So while my foot is there in that little hole, the arms are moving from down by your side up to shoulder height. And the whole time I'm having you rotate them internally and externally. So when you do that, so like you're finding if you put your pressure here, but you're static, if you were to take your arm, let's see if I do it here. Let's see, if you had your arm and then you start rolling inward, rolling outward, and you have your fingers there, you can feel what's going on underneath. Yeah, you're more into your armpit. You want to move like more over towards your chest. There you go, right there. So if you start moving your arm around, you can feel how the muscle. Now, if you start lowering your arm maybe halfway down your side, you can feel how that changes. And if you bring your arm all the way down to your side, you can feel what that does. So there, your shoulder, everything's not very open. But as you bring your arm out shoulder height, it's an open position. So we're pinning that tissue while you're moving it through that range of motion. So if something's stuck in there, it can get unstuck. If you're just trying to massage it, leaving your arm loose, relaxed, not doing anything with it, you might get some relief. But our whole philosophy really is that you have to really extend, not just extend that arm out or that leg out, but you have to feel like you're putting energy through it, all the way through your fingertips or your toes with the stretch. That's what the PIC does, the person in charge does. They have to not be limp, but they have to really stretch out. We have another part of the stretch that's called a lock, and that ensures that the entire body is engaged. So it's not just working on that one spot, but the whole body's connected. That's our philosophy. So we want to bring the whole body along for the fun ride. And you have to be, have to just be engaged that whole time. The stretches only last 10 to 20 seconds. They're short. And depending on the person, their energy level, their pain tolerance, we might do like 2 stretches for each section. So upper arm, inner arm, bicep, but it really depends on them. And the same thing with like low back. It just depends on them. So sometimes you don't need that much. Less is more.
Yes.
And that's the other thing, is being able to read your person in charge. Where are they at energy level wise? Where are they at pain level wise? And if somebody's laying on the floor, if they're just laying on the floor for 50 minutes working hard, it's a workout. So we never call a Rossiter session treatment or therapy, because it's a workout. I'm sweating. They're sweating. We've both been working, very hard during the session. I get a good workout. I like getting people up off the floor a couple times in between these stretches to walk. My studio is not that big, but I have them walk a couple of laps around to try to start integrating what we did. And if they're feeling change, if they feel anything different, and if they're not feeling anything different, then that's where we talk about like, okay, well, let's try this approach. And most people are very easygoing about it. Like, it's so new to them. They're willing to try something new. They found me. I'm kind of like the end of the line for a lot of people. And so, I have high job satisfaction because I see how good they feel when they're done. Everybody feels better. I'm always getting a hug. So, but after a session, so this is a problem that I've had a few times, is like after a session, people should look at like what they just went through, like after they had a massage. Drink a lot of water, move around, walk around, but don't do any like big stretches yourself, or don't go and work out. Like, give your body a chance to rest and integrate what you just did, and get some more hydration, get, oxygen, walking around, getting your circulation going, not going back and sitting, in the same position you were in, which is like, again, starting to reintroduce the comfort, the comfortable pain situation.
Yep.
Right. But I've had where people will come to me after they had a, let's say, acupuncture treatment. They come see me, and then maybe the next day they're scheduled for like PT or some other thing. So like, how do you really know what's working? So like, pick one thing, stick with it for a couple weeks, see if there's changes. If you have chronic pain, it didn't happen. Well, and a lot of times it did happen overnight. Maybe you had a car accident or things like that. But the chronic part, it's been with you for a long time when it gets to be chronic pain. So you have to give something a chance to work. You can't fix it overnight. It's like a diet. I know this myself. I didn't gain 80, 90 pounds overnight, right? And I knew I wasn't going to lose it overnight. It's not healthy to. So you have to give yourself that that time to heal and see if this works for you. But we're in a society where everybody wants everything right away. It's the Burger King mentality. I want it right away, my way, right away. And if it's not fixed in one day, if it's not fixed in 2 days, well, heck with you. I'm gone. I'm going to go somewhere else. They got a coupon down there. They got a Groupon over here. That's what I deal with. And that's okay. That's okay. I also think there is a segment of society, people who are in this chronic pain, that it's become their identity. There are a lot of people, and I'm not saying this is a judgmental thing, because I know what horrible pain is. I mean, I really do. I understand that. And there are a lot of people, though, that the pain, being disabled, becomes their why. That's like their personality. It identifies them. Right. They have a diagnosis and they become that diagnosis. Like, they internalize it and they can't let go of the pain. Right. So here they're running around, and I'm not saying it's you, I'm not saying it's me, but I've seen this a lot where people, they're just constantly going from one to another, trying to get rid of this pain, but they really don't want to, because they're holding on to it. It's become, whether it's like their trauma or how they've internalized this, they don't want to let it go. It's like, because they get negative attention all the time from being in pain, from complaining, from posting things on Facebook about this thing or that thing. It's cool to, I do it. I mean, I just had stomach surgery. So of course I posted on there letting people know what happened to me. And, I'm kind of disappeared for a little while and I'm back. But, and for me, it was more of like, go get checked, like, don't leave your colonoscopy or your mammogram, don't ignore it. That's why I'm wearing pink today, because at noon I have my mammogram. So, but, don't let those things go. But there are a lot of people, though, that it becomes their identity. Yeah. And those people I'm not going to be able to help until they think about, do they really want that identity? Right. And I am not a psychologist.
Yeah.
I am just a Pilates teacher who does body work called Rossiter. I don't want to deal with that part. But I understand it.
Do you have like psychotherapists in your back pocket that you could refer to?
I do. Awesome. Actually, somebody who's been a Pilates student of mine. But yeah, I always I can refer people to, I like always giving 2 or 3 referrals anyway, because if I give one and you go to that person and it's not successful, then I like have some options. Oh, excuse me.
Bless you.
Yeah. So yeah, but I don't deal with it. But that's the thing, though, is that when pain is released, and I see this with Pilates, with movement, also movement is very healing. When pain is released, people want to talk. Mm-hmm. They're not holding things in anymore. They spew. They will just tell me everything. So there's boundaries, right? You have to maintain boundaries. And I'm empathetic. I'm an empath anyway. And I want to listen and I want to be encouraging to them, but I am not professionally, it's way beyond my scope. And, and I won't necessarily tell somebody either that they need to get help, because I don't think that's well, I don't think that's my place to do it at all. It's like I've had Pilates students over the years with eating disorders, obvious ones. I've had where they have alcohol abuse issues. And I'm not there to be the policeman, their mother, their psychotherapist. I'm there to help them move, exercise, feel better. Same thing with Rossiter. I'm there to help them step out of pain, but not to solve whatever emotional issues, or psychological issues they have. So there is a boundary, but they're so intertwined. Because one of the things with Dr. Sarno was very big about the mind-body connection. Psycho, mind, somatic, body. What do women hear when a doctor says it's all in your head?
Right.
Right? They don't treat you, they don't look at you as a whole person. They look at you like, something's wrong. But there is a strong mind-body connection. It cannot be denied. A lot of things are in your head and they present in the body.
Yep.
And finding a way to solve that, to reconnect, like if it's disconnected, is what I do. Okay, but I'm not going to help somebody work through a journey of, necessarily revisiting all their childhood traumas and, working through that.
Right.
But a lot of that does happen when you have pain relief.
Yeah. I mean, it got stuck for a reason. There's usually some emotional component to trauma. And when you release it, the emotion comes out.
Oh yeah, you feel great.
Yeah.
So, and then the key point is keeping it from coming back.
Right.
So a lot of times, because I do a postural analysis, and most Rossiter coaches aren't doing this, except if they're Pilates people and they're very much into posture or anatomy. I will make suggestions on how you can move, or one can move through activities of daily living a little differently to put less stress. So something as simple as the bicep, maybe it's the height of your desk chair. Mm-hmm. Maybe, like I saw before, you were holding your head like that, but you're putting a lot of weight right into your elbow, shoulder, how you sit on the phone. I mean, just little things. I can observe that objectively. And then if you become aware of it, like as you move through your day, and try not to fall into those patterns again, that's going to help the process as well. Yeah.
Yeah. Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for this.
You had no idea.
Yeah.
What you were going to hear today.
Well, and the interesting thing is I have chronic pain, so I think I need to come see you. So
we'll talk.
We have to schedule that. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And okay, so finally, let me see. How can people reach you, Debbi?
Okay, well, that's always a good question. So I have a website. People still use websites. Mm-hmm. And it's www.FINRA Pilates and Rossiter Center.com. Why didn't I pick something shorter? FINRA Pilates and Rossiter Center.
Perfect.
But I do get a lot of people who find me that, with FINRA Pilates. I come up pretty high up in the listing. I'm on Facebook.
Okay.
I also have my my business page on Facebook, also FINRA Pilates and Rossiter Center. I'm on Instagram at PHX Pilates Rossiter Coach. I hope that's right. You know, it's like your phone number. You used to push on a button. Yeah, I'll send them to you. I'll make sure you get that.
Awesome.
So,
yes. Yes. So that'll be in the description. Mm-hmm. What's your phone number?
602-318-5068.
Perfect.
And texting reaches me faster than anything. So I love texting.
Perfect. So we'll include all of that information in the description below so y'all can find it, and that'll be on the audio as well as the video. And do you have any final thoughts or inspiration you'd like to share, Debbi?
No, I just appreciate having the chance to share what Rossiter stretch technique is to your listeners who probably have no idea, or maybe they do, maybe they've heard about it, and just share what the benefits are, and just if you have a chance to try it out, give it a try. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Stephanie.